There is so much greed happening in the world right now that it is just downright disgusting, especially when you see how companies and people are treating senior citizens, guys. People that work their entire lives to have a home, have a roof over their head with dignity until the day they die. But now you have people that don't care about that. They just want money. And if you can't give money, then goodbye. That's how these people are being treated right now. So this story that I'm talking about here derives from a situation that happened here in California. There's a 96-year-old woman who is living at a senior assisted living facility, okay? And she just got served a 3-day eviction notice unless she was able to cough up $110,000 or she has to leave. And she's been living in this senior living facility for the past 22 years. And she's supposed to be able to live there for life. But just like everything else right now, you have businesses selling their business to other businesses, mergers and acquisitions, and new companies take over, and guess what? They don't want to honor the deals of the previous company. So what's happening to her is she signed a lifetime contract with California Nevada Methodist Homes in 2002 to live at the Forest Hill Manor Nursing Home in Pacific Grove, California for the rest of her life. She secured the spot with a $250,000 down payment. Back then, guys, that's a tremendous amount of money. That's kind of like putting down $400,000 today when adjusted for inflation. And then she paid $5,000 in monthly rent until she completely ran out of money. I guess that was part of the deal. I don't know. California Nevada Methodist Homes went bankrupt and then later sold the facility to Pacific Grove Senior Living in 2022. And when they made this acquisition, they signed off on the contract that said that they would honor the clause from previous tenants who have signed lifetime deals. And of course, this woman thought that her deal was going to be honored. Obviously, she said the reason she moved into this place is because of the lifetime deal. You know, she knew she was going to have a place to live and not have to worry until she was gone. And that's literally the only type of peace of mind that you can buy, in my opinion. But apparently, even paying for it isn't enough anymore. And they're saying that for whatever reason, her contract wasn't grandfathered in. Like, okay, give me a break, guys. If that's just some clerical error or some sort of paperwork error, then they should definitely do the right thing and just fix it and honor it. Especially if she has proof from a prior contract that this is what she signed up for and now she's not getting it. They need to honor this. It's the right thing to do. But now they're trying to pull this with other people there too, because Pacific Senior Living is now saying that the lifetime care contracts, like the one that this person signed, were only considered unconditional with the previous owners, not with the new ones. So they're basically lying. And it's like, what's the end game with these people? You know, like, where is this person going to go? Where is this 96-year-old woman going to live, especially when she thought she was going to live out the rest of her days there, guys? Like, whatever they're doing here is like beyond criminal. It's just like sickening, you know, like that they're trying to do this to people. Like, honor the old contract. You said you would, and now you're trying to renege on that and kick people out that have nowhere else to go and have pumped their entire life savings into this place. But a good thing for this woman is she's being very firm, and she's saying, I'm not going anywhere. You guys are gonna have to bury me here. That's essentially what she's saying. And also, it turns out the eviction notice that she was served doesn't have all the appropriate information on it, like how to appeal it, and maybe this whole thing will get thrown out, which hopefully it does. And in case you can't tell, I'm out here on the boat docks in Sausalito. I told you guys I was gonna walk all these docks eventually. There's so many of them. Probably still have a couple more of these walks out here to do before I actually hit them all. You know, and unfortunately, this mistreatment of the elderly doesn't end with this senior living facility story either. In fact, another story was sent to me recently about how the VA is under fire after attempting to get rid of over 10,000 employees, and they're trying to hide this whole multi-million-dollar scandal where a bunch of the top executives received bonuses that they weren't supposed to get, guys. And the VA doesn't really necessarily mean seniors, but a lot of veterans of this country are senior citizens. There are obviously younger ones too, but a good chunk of them are also seniors, and they're being taken advantage of by programs like the VA. In fact, the VA recently started laying off frontline healthcare workers despite multiple previous promises to protect these jobs. You know, these are supposed to be jobs that are guaranteed by the federal government, yet they're firing people because they don't have the money. Why don't they have the money? Because people who are not supposed to get the money stole it. They're laying off people like psychologists, clinical social workers, and other frontline caregivers. The reason is because they have a major budget shortfall, and literally this is coming at the worst time possible because veteran patients already face extremely long wait times for services, and on top of this, they have a much higher suicide rate than the average person. So if they can't get the care that they need, then they could end up in big trouble real fast. So what allegedly happened is the VA paid their senior executives over $11 million in improper bonuses last year. And the secretary of the DA has since canceled these bonuses and started to try to recover the funds, but the damage is done. It's like, yeah, what are you going to do to recover these funds? Are you going to put liens on their yachts and their mansions and actually recover it? Or is it just all talk? Maybe this guy got some too. Who knows, right? You know, just last year, 1 year ago, the VA went on a hiring spree and they were hiring thousands of employees to keep up with the surge in veterans seeking care. And now it's all going into reverse because of a bunch of greedy executives. You know, I've always had a big respect for the elderly guys because I don't know why, maybe because I grew up around a lot of elderly people. In fact, I used to talk to my great grandma when I was just a little kid, and she was, you know, in her late 80s or 90s, and she would tell me all these stories from the past, you know, what it was like during the Great Depression, things like that. And I always thought it was extremely fascinating to hear all these things that you really couldn't get anywhere else. You know, these are firsthand accounts of how things used to be a really long time ago. Not only was that interesting, but she was just such a nice and sweet person, you know, like when I think of elderly, I always think of her. And when I hear, you know, people like this are being mistreated, it's really sad. It really is heartbreaking. So hopefully this whole thing is going to get resolved and they are going to recover this $11 million and make sure they save a bunch of these jobs. But, you know, letting go of 10,000 people is significant, guys. That is a major layoff in the healthcare sector. You know, this is a sector of the economy that's supposed to still be doing well right now, especially with all of the government funding that the healthcare sector gets. You know, there's lots of insurance scams that go on with healthcare, and yet something like this is happening because of someone else's greed. So it's just ridiculous, and hopefully it gets turned around. But, you know, a lot of people in general have just had it with their home search, and you have basically a record amount of people in the United States that are turning to buying a tiny home. You know, the popularity of this continues to grow. According to a report by Investment Property Exchange Services, 73% of Americans now say they would consider living in a tiny home. And usually these are places that are smaller than 500 square feet. Right now it's estimated there's about 10,000 tiny homes in the US, which is a very small percentage of dwellings. And surprise, surprise, the biggest reason that people are moving into tiny homes isn't because it has a lower carbon footprint or it saves the environment, guys. It's because people can't afford regular houses anymore. That's the real truth. The typical tiny home in the United States costs about $67,000, which is 87% cheaper than what somebody can expect to pay for the average house. So big savings there. And the crazy thing is $67,000 not too long ago in American history used to be what the average house cost. But people are looking at all different sorts of alternative living right now, not just tiny homes. People are looking at container homes. People are looking at, you know, living in RVs or living in their van, the van life movement, all sorts of things like that. And the good thing is, if you are somebody who's interested in living in a tiny home, not only is it cheaper to buy one, but your operating expenses, your overhead to live in this place are going to be much lower than a traditional home. So your overall expenses in life are just going to be a lot lower. And that's a huge advantage for anybody looking to do this right now. So it's no wonder that you have a lot of people looking into this more than ever. I mean, I would even consider it too if I could live in like a bigger tiny house. You know, 500 square feet is too small. But if I had one that was like 800 to 1,000 square feet that had like the right layout, I could probably make it work, guys. Like the place I'm renting here in Tiburon is only like barely 700 square feet. It was a small 1 bedroom, but it's fine. You know, it's a lot smaller than my place at home, but we're living minimalistic in it, and it's just fine. You know, there's no real problems. I do miss having some of my stuff from home, like my big guitar rig and my other guitars and my own office and stuff like that. But, you know, from the day-to-day life, it's easy to get by without that stuff. Another big advantage of people who are, you know, buying these tiny homes is a lot of them can be relocated pretty easily. Those are the true mobile homes. You know, we have mobile home parks, but in reality, a lot of those homes aren't so mobile because they cost so much money to move. But a lot of these tiny homes can just be hooked up to a trailer and move somewhere else without any trouble. So what really needs to catch up to help people out with this are the local zoning laws to, you know, allow more people to put tiny homes in places where they currently don't allow them. But to give you a head start, the top 10 tiny home friendly states in America right now are Vermont, Wyoming, Alaska, Maine, Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota, New Hampshire, Arkansas, and Tennessee. So if you're looking at putting a tiny home somewhere, those are probably your best places to start. But of course, there's other areas in the country where you can do this too. Now, based on a lot of the things we talked about in this video so far, housing in general is a contentious issue. You know, you have senior citizens being thrown out of their homes that they're supposed to be able to live in for life. You have more people than ever looking at tiny homes as a viable solution because traditional housing is more expensive. Well, Trump just came out and said if he's elected, he is going to ban mortgages for undocumented immigrants, guys, which is in direct contrast of what they're trying to do here in California and Oregon, and give all these incentives essentially for illegals to come here and buy homes. Well, Trump says he's going to put an end to that. Whether or not he'll be able to stop this from happening on a state level like here in California, I have no idea, or how he's even going to do this, but it's a promise he's making. And, you know, some people are saying, well, this is just, you know, a political move because only between 5,000 and 6,000 mortgages last year were issued to illegal immigrants. Well, I don't even know how any of them can get a mortgage, to be honest, because even as a citizen, you know, if you've ever applied to buy a house and get a mortgage, you got to pretty much provide everything except for a DNA sample, guys. They ask you a million questions. You got to provide documents going back several years, tax returns, bank statements, you name it, birth certificates, social security cards, pretty much everything you've ever been documented on in your entire life to get a mortgage. But if you have an ITIN number and you're an illegal immigrant, you can get a mortgage here in California. Up to $150,000 in free down payment money too, by the way. The president of the National Housing Conference said that it's unfortunate that given the significant housing affordability crisis, we are arguing about a minuscule segment of the market. Well, it's not just about being a minuscule segment of the market. It's about putting Americans first, guys. To me, that's what this is about. Like, you know, it's not just preventing those people from buying a home, but it's not giving them the upper hand on top of that. You know, they're already not supposed to come here, right? They made it here illegally. Somehow they're making a living and all of that. Why should that person get prioritized and get prioritized help to buy a home over someone that was born and raised in this country and has been paying taxes since they started working? It's just completely wrong. But apparently, undocumented immigrants have been able to obtain mortgages in the U.S. since the USA Patriot Act of 2001 allowed banks to use ITIN numbers to get financial services. Funny name, how they call it the Patriot Act, to help people who aren't supposed to be here, huh? But I think one thing that Trump should look at doing if he is elected, besides just banning illegal immigrants from getting loans to buy houses, I think they should look at banning all foreign buyers from buying homes, at least temporarily. You know, putting a foreign ban on homes temporarily right now at a time when most Americans can't afford a house, I think is the real patriotic thing to do. You know, let's put our citizens first for a change and stop helping others or allowing others that don't even live here to come and buy up, you know, real estate as a speculative investment or a safe place to park cash just because they live in a volatile country where their currency can't be trusted. I mean, neither can ours, to be honest, but they say that ours is better than the rest of them. That's why they come here. In fact, close to half of all the foreign purchases made in the US are by people who reside abroad, and the other half are made by recent immigrants or residents on non-immigrant visas. So I've heard from plenty of you guys before that there are many countries across the world where I can go and I cannot buy a house if I move there as an American, okay? They just won't let you buy real estate in that country. I don't know how many countries this applies to, but I'm sure it's a fair amount of them. You know, in some countries like Italy, for example, where they sell those $1 houses, it's because they're having a demographic problem over there, and no one wants to live in these old towns that are falling apart. So they're incentivizing foreigners, you know, rich Americans to come over there and spend a lot of money in the area and rehab those homes. That's different than, you know, having a housing shortage, a housing crisis in this country, and allowing people from anywhere to come in and buy up as much real estate as they want without even second guessing it. And like I said before, guys, it's not like I blame illegal immigrants for coming here. Obviously, they have their reasons and motives because of where they live is so awful that they would rather risk everything to come here. I get that. You know, I don't really have a beef with that. I have a beef with how our country handles this and how Americans are literally being sidelined in favor of these people, which is completely backwards and wrong, in my opinion. And I think no matter which side of the political aisle you're on, you probably agree with that statement. One other crazy thing that somebody sent me that I'd never heard of this before, like you guys have heard me talk about some of the horror stories with condo Karens and condo Craigs out there that give people all kinds of trouble about following the rules in their buildings. Well, this one is something ridiculous, guys. This guy, for the past 4 years, has been leaving a cooler outside of his home that provides free water to the neighborhood, okay? And now he's been ordered to stop. His HOA is even fining him for it. And he's not doing anything wrong. It's not like he's poisoning anybody. He's just giving free bottled water, okay? It's sealed up. You can just take one for free. How is that a crime? How is this guy doing anything wrong? But the problem is the HOA is fining him now. And if you have unpaid HOA fines or dues, then eventually the HOA can actually foreclose on your unit. So hopefully something like this doesn't happen to this guy, because when you're trying to just, you know, be a nice neighbor and hand out free water to people, I don't know what his motive for doing this is, other than maybe just being kind and polite and trying to do good in the world. But now he's getting a $100 fine every single month that might actually go up. And he said he's not going to pay them. Here's what the HOA said in a statement: that the association does not object to a resident providing free water bottles to the community. However, the rules of the community do not allow a resident to advertise water bottle distribution from a portable ice chest located next to their garage that is visible from the neighboring property. So just all those ridiculous rules and things that they do to say, oh, you know, the cooler looks bad, you know, you can't advertise and blah, blah, blah. Like, this is just nuts, guys. Just like the whole story we had in the beginning about this woman being kicked out of the senior living facility, like throwing people out on technicalities and fining people on these ridiculous technicalities has got to come to an end. But this guy's right, you know, he's like, they should be focusing more on improving our community than finding someone giving out free water. And that's the real issue, you know, just like our government, it's like their eye isn't on the ball. Like, let's worry about, you know, ridiculous Mickey Mouse issues when there's major problems at play. Like I just saw here in California, they want to make it so that all cars in the future, if you're speeding more than 10 miles per hour, has this annoying beeping sound that won't go away, you know, until you slow down. Like, that's seriously what you guys are focused on when you have the largest homeless problem in the world, or at least in the United States, and you guys have this major budget deficit going on right now, and an insurance crisis just as bad, if not worse than Florida's now. That's what you're worried about? People going 10 miles over the speed limit? Same kind of deal, you know? But this guy said he's never going to stop giving out the free water, and he's not going to pay any of these fines. So I hope that this story ends well for him, and they're just going to do the right thing and drop it. Just like I hope this woman gets to stay in her home that she paid for life. So if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you subscribe to the channel. And if you don't want to wait for my next video to come out, check out this one on the screen right over here, and I'll see you in the next one.